So it's a little bit late for that, but it was good stuff. No, I guess we won't do that again, though. But, so, everybody having a good day today? I'll say yes, you are. I think you are. Anyway, I don't know how to or what parts of my world relate to people in ways they can appreciate in the best possible ways. So I just try to tell the things that have been the most influential on my world. Uh, since I didn't have any training beforehand, it was just what I learned along the way. And it helps a lot to just be having an open mind to whatever is coming up, you know. And we usually try to have that for people, our friends, but sometimes we get blocked out by people we're not real sure of, so we don't pay as close attention there. But that's what life is. It's really a pretty big smorgasbord when you try and live your life in a way that takes you in the direction that you are most appropriately going. Sometimes you get into areas where you're making good money and you think that's the right way, but it turns out to takes you the wrong direction sometimes. And sometimes you don't hardly make any money, and it seems to take you in the right direction sometimes. So you got to battle on those different sides of things and keep yourself going in the right direction. But the helicopter world seemed to be really the best world for me. It required a great deal of effort to keep myself stable and balanced at all times, which is what a helicopter is all about. And it worked out pretty well for all of it. But, the one experience that was the most significant to me was the one where I learned that I had reached a level of Zen in a helicopter, and that was the one where I took off out of Dubai, and with a co-pilot who was brand new to the company, and I was going to show him around the area and take him to our task for the day, which was take some people out to an oil rig, 7 people out, and bring 5 people back. And so we started on that, went on that trip, and as we got about 20 miles away from where we started, he saw something in the water on his side of the aircraft and said, "What's that?" And I said, "What's what?" He said, "Right here out my door." And so I tilt the aircraft over, looked out the window, and came back up. And I kept my eyes closed for quite a while after I saw what I saw. All I saw was a black smudge. May have had some rectangularness to it, but I couldn't tell for sure. And I kept my eyes closed for 6 seconds or so, which is really a long time in a helicopter. But I wasn't sure, but I thought maybe it was a upside down boat that just sunk and was on the bottom. Could possibly have been. I didn't know if it was or not. I only saw it for a half a second, and it was just black smudge. But that's what my thought was after I saw that. And if it was a tanker, car, whatever, some kind of vessel, it's probably maybe around 60 foot long, something like that. That was my estimate. I couldn't really tell. All I saw was a smudge. It looked like about, an inch long from up at 1,500 feet. But I said, well, if it really is a ship that's on the bottom and it's really been there just recently, I'll have to call ATC and see if they got anybody looking for people. So I did that, called air traffic control, and they Said, no, there's nobody out there looking for anybody in that area. I said, okay. So I just said, well, we'll just keep on going out. And I didn't do anything. But I marked the spot on my instrument so I know where to go if we decide to go back there. Anyway, I kept on going. And before we got to the rig it was going to, which is about 40 minutes out total, suddenly, out of the clear blue sky, I suddenly knew that the man who is the communications guy on the oil rig was going to be sitting in the seat that talks to us in the front seat, because only one person in the back gets a headset that can talk to us, and we use that to relay information back and forth if we need to, especially in emergencies and stuff. Anyway, I knew he was going to actually find the life raft that I didn't know we were looking for yet when we go out and look for it. And I said, why am I thinking these thoughts? I never imagined that it could be this way. But that's what it was. That came directly to me from somewhere. And anyway, I kept on, went out and landed, swapped out all the people. The communication guy got in the seat. Everybody was on board. We took off, went back. On the way back, I was deciding, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I didn't know anything about anybody in life raft. I didn't know if there was any aircraft or any boat out there. I didn't know anything for sure. All I knew was I saw black smudge on the bottom. And so I got back to the spot, and I said, well, okay. It was such a clear thought. I'm going to go ahead and start looking for this boat or life raft. And how was I supposed to know where to go? I mean, the Persian Gulf in that spot is like 150 miles across. It could have been anywhere out there. So I just said, well, if it's close by, I can go look for it, because I've got enough fuel for about 15, 20 minutes that I can spare on the way back. So I just went out, turned around, went out for about 13 minutes or so. I hadn't seen it yet, but right around 14 minutes, he called from the back seat and says, I think I see something out here. Yeah, I said, really? I said, yeah, 4 o'clock. So I said, turn over. There was a life raft, a couple oars sticking out. And when they heard the helicopter, they started moving the oars. So we knew there was somebody on board and they were still alive. So I called air traffic control and asked them if they could look around if there's somebody looking for a life raft now, because we found one. He said, okay. They called around. They called an airfield 50 miles away. And he said, yeah, there's people looking for them. They've been looking for them for 2 days. They've been in the water for 3 days. And we're the first one to find them. And we didn't know they were out there. This is not logical, but apparently it was time for that. And it happened. And so that was my first experience at really being in the flow without knowing how I got there. And it's like you don't really know how to talk about it with people when it happens the first time. I didn't tell any other pilots except the boss. He had to know, because we spent 20 or 30 extra minutes flying that somebody was going to have to pay for. Since I found some people, I wasn't going to have to pay for it. If I didn't find anybody, I'd probably have to pay for it myself. But that's the way it works. Anyway, they paid for it. The oil rig paid for it. They didn't mind. So it was really good. Now, the people that were saved, they didn't know that I found the boat. They don't know anything about it. And that's the life of a helicopter probably most of the time. Well, I've saved numerous people's lives, I know that, but none of them do you ever meet to see. You don't even know how many you save, because you don't know who lives or who dies most of the time. You just drop them off and hope. I've dropped off lots of people at hospitals, even little babies, and you always wonder how they're going to do. And it's been a very interesting world to live in. flying with Bollywood actors. That was pretty interesting too. So, for them out to do some pretty risky scenes in helicopter. I wanted to make sure they knew how risky it was, so I had to talk to the guys who were in the back seat going to go and make these moves outside the aircraft, holding on to sort of a link between the inside of the aircraft and the outside, and they'd be holding on to that. And it's like a strap. And sometimes it's around their waist, sometimes it's not. Most of the time I think it was. Anyway, I want to make sure they knew that if I lost an engine, there's not much chance you're going to have to get out of the way. So you need to know about that beforehand. That I'm willing to do this, but you need to be willing to recognize whether or not you want to do this. Because if you're not in the mode of feeling comfortable with this, it won't work out so well. So you have to tell me, can you do this and still feel comfortable while you're doing it? And he said, yes, I'll be fine. I'm not worried about it at all. I said, okay, well, we'll do it. And that's good, because usually he would be the one that died if it didn't work. But nonetheless, it was like there was other jobs where I have to do things where if an engine quits, I'm going to die probably, because the water where you're located flying over and the tankers that you fly in front of will be running right over you if the engine quits. So I tell the guy who's taking the pictures in the back, as long as you're ready for it, I'll be ready for it. So we'll do it. And it's just a normal thing in the helicopter industry. You're always risking your life for a picture, or some oil companies want you to take a picture of something crazy, a flare, and you got to get right next to the flare, and it's burning hot. It's amazing stuff they ask you to do over there. But it's interesting, and it is an experience that you never forget. It makes you feel alive, really alive. You're right there at the midst of things. And it's an intensive excitement inside you, and you feel like you're just part of it. You're almost connected to the fire. It's right there, right next to you. Which is part of another story. When I was flying in Saudi Arabia, I was taking we were on a night flight going to some oil rig, but mostly it was for night training. So we go out and do some night flying to stay current. And the guy I was flying with was also a Vietnam pilot. But while he was in Vietnam, he had an experience where he crashed at night. So at nighttime, when you're night flying, he would get a bit more anxious than the average pilot, because he had that experience before, and he hadn't quite let go of it yet. So one night when we were flying to a platform that had a flare right next to it. This flare is about 300 feet high. You can imagine a huge flare, like a major candle, if you ever saw one. So I'd say it's probably about 20, 30 foot wide flare and almost 200 feet tall. And it's only a quarter mile away from the rig you're landing on. And we were shooting approach to that little rig. And he got stuck. He got stuck in his night experience in Vietnam while he was on that flight. And while he was in the descent, he kept diving and diving. And I said, well, I'll take the controls now if you don't mind. And he said, he didn't say anything really. So I was holding the controls, but I wasn't trying to take them away until he released them. And I asked him 3 times. On the 3rd time, he let go, pulled back. We were about 50 feet off the water, so if I hadn't got it then, it would have been too late. So those are the kind of things you go through, and it's like, wow. But it's exciting. You enjoy it. You know, I was pretty sure I could take it away from him if I needed to, because I knew he was stuck there. And you don't know the best way to get somebody unstuck, so you have to do it gently, and you don't try and force anything to happen. But once he let go, then everything came back to normal. We just flew back in, no big deal. But he took it harder than I did. I wasn't going to tell anybody about it because I knew it was one of those things that will affect you a lot sometimes. But he didn't want me to have a chance to say anything, so he said everything himself first. So I wasn't going to tell anybody anyway. But I think whatever happens in the helicopter is something between the 2 pilots, and you help each other better that way than going to management. Management always takes a dim view of pretty much everything. They might fire you for it. So you have to be real careful how you say things. Anyway, it's just life. You know, life is a tricky experience to go through, and when you're flying, you get so much intense requirements. The requirements that you have to go through require subtlety, peacefulness, caring, and immediate action most of the time, but not immediate when you're dealing with people. People have to be part of that equation. And we're going through those things now, learning how to deal with people that we are associated with. When you tell them which kind of stories we go through here, all the things we learn, the things that we are experiencing, we want more people to know about them, but not everybody's ready for these experiences. And so you can only tell those people who have at least a slight chance of understanding what you're talking about. So that's what it's been for me all the time over there, because none of the people would have taken most of the things that I already knew about as being true. No, most, actually the guys I was flying with over there, most of them were from New Zealand, actually, and two from South Africa, and about 5 or 6 from New Zealand. I was the only American pilot there, so it was kind of a mix of stuff. But I was the one with the most time, so I was always the one that was training them how to do things in a way that's most comfortable for them and everybody else. And it was a pretty good operation. It worked out really well. But then there's always those 1 or 2 things that come up that are more than you know how to explain. Well, our boss, this was the boss of the company and the chief instructor, a very good man. I liked him a lot. And most of the time, he was always in a good mood about everything. But one time, I wrote up an aircraft that I was experiencing a complete different attitude indication on both gauges. One gauge was reading 6 degrees right bank, and the other gauge was reading 10 degrees nose down. If you flew that aircraft at night and it did that, you'd be in a world of hurt there, trying to figure out what's going on. So I that was at daytime, so I could see enough, so it wasn't a big deal. But in bad weather or night, it could kill you pretty easy. Anyway, so I wrote it up. Now, normally, when we got something wrong with the aircraft, we don't write it up. We write it on a piece of paper, but we don't put it written on the book itself. We take that piece of paper and put it in the book. Normally we do that because they may want to fly the aircraft, and if it's something minor, no big deal, they'll just, let you fly it to do something, and they'll fix it when it comes back. It's not really legal, but for most parts, people understand it's not that big a deal. But this, to me, was a big deal, because there's no doubt in my mind that that could kill you. And strangely enough, the boss was going to fly that aircraft. But when it was, because I wrote it up, he couldn't, so they had to work on it first. And they did. They worked on it that night, but it made him delayed for one day, so he couldn't do it till the next night. Which that's annoyed him, of course. He wanted to do it that night because he had plans for another night. In any case, when they worked on it, they could not duplicate what I wrote up. Because they couldn't duplicate it, they signed it off, but they swapped the gauges. Actually, torsion units, what they're called, but they swapped them from side to side, so maybe when somebody flew it again, they'd find out if it really was a more permanent thing. Okay, so he didn't go fly that night, but he took it the next night. And he flew. And he died. And 6 other people with him. Because it hadn't been fixed, and they didn't know what was wrong. There are other things that go along with that. And I'm wondering if I had anything to do with his death, really. I told him not to. I told him it's not a safe thing, trying to get him to stop it, but apparently he didn't take it too seriously, so he took it out. I mean, the things like this, drive you crazy. You're friends with people, and then suddenly they're dead. It's like, wow. Mm-hmm. And you see that in our world. I first hired on with the company. We were losing 5 people every year in the small ships, and nobody knew why or how they were getting lost. They just never show up. They fly out, disappear. Nobody knew what happened to them. They didn't know. They figured they must have got caught in some kind of bad weather and drowned and died, the aircraft crashed, whatever. They never found anything on 5 of those things. But they were doing that every year. They've been that way for like 3 years. And finally, one time, an aircraft was taking off from one of those same small ship was taking off from a platform, and rotor blades came off before it got up in the air. It was only about 6 inches off the ground. Boom! All the blades came off, and it fell back down right on the platform. So now they had something to tell them what was going on. Now finally they went out and found the blades and determined what the problem was. You see, so you just never know with a helicopter what's going to go on. But that's the best part about it, keeps you interested all the time. So I always had a good attitude. I never worried about it too much. I think that's part of being safe, is not worrying too much. And we have to also have that attitude in the things we try to tell other people. And we try to be engaging in a way that helps us connect with the inner person that we're talking to. And like when I'm talking to you now about this, these are the things that make me feel comfortable talking about life or death things, because I've been through so many of them that they don't make me feel queasy or anything. Don't make me think of it as a bad thing or a good thing. It's just normal. Not for most people, but for me it was pretty normal. So people dying in Vietnam, dying in the U.S., dying overseas. I see it all everywhere. It's like, pretty normal. But you don't like to think that. Sort of, people think, well, you got a job, you're pretty safe there. No, helicopter job, not safe. But it is a very adventurous job. And you're living life to the fullest when you're working. You are right on the verge of life and death at all times. And it's amazing, right? Amazing. You have a lot of fun. You joke around. There's a lot of people because you're in that mode. And I want to try and get more of that going into me, going in with you guys, and all the people we work with when we do work with people. But I still haven't established for myself what the best way for me to work with people is. I'm still learning about that part. So, what else can we do? Anyway, now that Guy is here and Kelly's here, with Linda, we had Ashley initially, but I want to try this rain-making thing again. So we'll do it with 4 people instead of 3 like the first time. And this time it'll be recorded, so it'll be a little better. You familiar with that, Guy? And Kelly, you familiar with how to do the rain dance thing? Are you familiar with it?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Well, what you do is, we're going to hold hands in an imaginary circle. Left palm up, right palm down. And what we're going to do is we're going to imagine what it feels like when you're out in the rain. Imagine it feel like. Also, what it sounds like. Also, what you see and what you hear. You can taste it if you want to, but not necessarily. I just want to have all the feelings that you can about what it's like to be in the rain. I want you to imagine them for just a minute, and we'll go through that process. And so, let's all hold hands. Left palm up, right palm down. Close your eyes. I'm going to imagine for Melbourne. If everybody imagines for Melbourne, Florida, that probably have more positive sensations for Melbourne. But you don't have to. You can, any place you want to have rain, we're going to feel that rain in that location. So let's do that for 1 minute, feeling, sensing it in all your senses. All your senses. Seeing it, feeling it, hearing it. Your toes in the grass with the water, toes in the mud with the water, rain falling on your head, rain all around you. Feel it, see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, know it. You're becoming the rain. 1 minute. Okay, good. Thank you very much. We'll see how that works out tomorrow. Kind of interesting how all these things work. We have to develop our skills of working together as a team. So we also want to learn how to affect the weather in calming ways so that we can have influence whatever weather might be coming our way. While I was working here in Melbourne as a swimming pool tech, which is actually a guy who just goes around cleaning swimming pools and getting them all working right, make sure all the pumps are doing all what they're supposed to do. And I went to over 5,000 pools during that time. And for some reason, not exactly sure what that reason is, but for some reason, wherever I went, it was not raining. Never. 5,000 pools. Never. In Florida, where it rains regularly. Some reason, for me, it didn't rain. I don't understand exactly why that did it, but I didn't want it to rain because I can't do my job if it's raining. Apparently that's all it took. So anyway, it's part of the growth process to see how all this works, and we want to have an effect, be able to affect weather because it might be in our best interest from time to time to have that effect. And I believe we're going to have more and more influence in that area as we move forward in time. So, have to wait and see. Mm-hmm. Now I'm trying to imagine what kind of identity we'd like to have in a relationship with each other, because I haven't really established one of those yet. I'm trying to imagine it, but it's hard for me to imagine it because I see it being something I still haven't yet reached yet. Some kind of zenness, I think, universal zenness, I think, is what I'm reaching for. And so that when you're being who you are, being all that you are, rather than just some of what you are. We have within us a problem-solving awareness. And everybody's familiar with that, you got a problem, you got to figure out how to fix it and all that. Unfortunately, even though that's been beneficial in a lot of ways, it's also been the same way that we lose track of full body awareness. We only have the problem-solving awareness. We don't have complete awareness yet. And we're working on that. There's a book I'm reading now, Shift to Freedom, in which explains how to go from where we are now, problem-solving, to open awareness, completely open. And you can go directly there. But it's a mental process. But at the same time, you can't jump to do it easily because you have to understand what you're doing in order to do it. So he has to get you to take small steps and repeat them over and over again until you start understanding what you are. I'm only on the early phases. I only got to chapter 25. I think there was 115 chapters. So it seemed pretty interesting, though. I think anybody's interested in a mental way to become aware of all of that you are, that book might be very beneficial. I'm not sure that everybody could do it that way, but if you're starting to understand awareness the way we teach it here in this class, these Christopher's classes, it might be possible for us to learn it that way. So I'm going to keep on going with that book to see how well it works. Anybody have any questions on anything? So you have to unmute yourself, really.
What was the name of that book again, Joseph?
It's Shift to Freedom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good shift to freedom, because that's really what we're trying to do, because we're moving into that phase of our growth. And if I can make it for the next 10, 11 years, we get there. I'm hoping for that. I keep trying these exercises that were supposed to take you back in time. And there are some good, actually, there are quite a few good exercises on YouTube. Not all of them are great for you, but there are some that are really scientifically proven to take your biomarkers back. One that I'm doing now, one of them, just one of the exercises, will take you back 12 years if you're interested in that sort of thing. The exercise is mostly about doing squats, but it's doing them with a certain breathing technique at the same time. You're opening up your central nervous system to the parasympathetic system as opposed to the fight or flight one. And when you do that, it affects things a whole lot differently. So if you want to look that one up on YouTube, I think it's called Surgeon Reveals 5 Exercises for Changing Your Aging for Aging, something like that. Anyway, it's under, I think it's a, what do they think? Senior book. It'll also have the word senior book on it, basically, because it's built for older people, and it seems to be very beneficial. I noticed that now I can get down really low in my squats, and I'm almost to where I can be like they want you to stay there in that squat position, getting tired. When I can do that, that'll be good. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to that. And I'm almost there, so it's pretty good. I can go down there for a couple minutes, but
that's a tough one. The squat, like a lot of native people around the world, that's their natural position, to just be able to stay in the squat and hang out like that. It takes a lot of flexibility in the hips and the heels. I have to hold on to something. I can't. My body doesn't like to.
You're how old are you, Guy?
I'm 6'4".
Yeah, that's part of the problem. Most Asians are nowhere close to 6'4". But,
that's true.
So you have to recognize that it's going to take you a while to get in that position. You're out of balance for it when you go get down there that low. And I'm 6 foot, but I'm getting down there, and now it's easier than it's ever been for me before. So I think it is really working, and it also spreads your inner thighs out a little more too when you do it enough, because you do it with your legs farther apart than normal squats, and your feet are pointed outward. So that way it opens up your inner stuff, and that's another important area. I think they call it the fascia in that area, is where they're helping you grow. Because that stuff, as you get older, gets sort of unused, and now you got to use it to get it back working, and that affects everything in a positive way. So there's that one, the wall sit. Have you heard of the wall sit?
Like you're back against the wall and your knees at 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Well, that's tough too.
That's a burner. Yeah, so I can do that for a minute at a time. So it's all right. But boy, that's a burner. It burns those legs. And that one, you only have to do that for 2 or 3 times, and you do it like 3 times a week, and that will fix your legs up really quickly. Yeah, so, and the other one that's pretty beneficial is one where you on your back and you pull you can push your back up and have a straight line from your pelvis down to your shoulders while your butt is up in the air and you're squeezing your glutes to hold it up there.
Yeah, like a bridge, a half bridge.
Yeah. Do that for a minute at a time, 3 times a day, 3 reps. And do that for, I'd say 4 times a week. You do that, it'll probably keep you in good shape there. You don't have to do it forever, but 1 minute at a time. If you can do it for a minute, that'd be. You don't have to do a minute right away. You can do it whenever you can do it. So just work yourself up to that, and making sure you're putting pressure on your glutes as you do it.
Yeah, another thing I've been challenging myself lately when I'm at the gym is dead hangs.
What is it? Dead hangs?
Dead hangs, yeah. You grab like the big bar and you just hang. So I time myself. I'm going for 2 minutes, but I'm about a minute and a half, minute 45, and it's it's for grip strength.
Right. Yeah.
Forearms. It's just good overall.
That's one of the most important ones to do, the grip strength, because they say that the grip, when that's going, that's the first sign that something's falling apart on the inside. So anyway, I try to do that one too. But I had a hard time initially because the bar I was using was too skinny. Pinching my hands and everything. I didn't like that. So I'm trying to work on it. I can find the right size bar and it'll be a lot easier. But I was doing that. I was only doing it for about a minute and I quit and do another one. If you can do 3 of those at a time for a minute, you're in pretty good shape. But you can build it up if you want. But actually, you can build it up where you're doing all sorts of things. It just depends on how far you want to go in it. I don't want to become super muscular or anything. I just want to be right in the middle, not too muscular, not too weak. In the middle.
To maintain.
When I was 20, 27, 28 years old, I was a lead pilot at some small base in Louisiana for petroleum helicopters. And somebody brought in one of the customers brought in we called it it was a flange. It was like 2.5, 3 inch thick stainless steel, about 2 foot wide, around. And he slid it off the back of the truck onto the ground, and it was the ground there was made of shells. There's a lot of shells in Louisiana on the beach areas, and so this area was like that. And the scale is about 25 feet away, and he didn't want to pick it up. Now I weigh 150 pounds. I was pretty thin, and I was still 6 foot tall. I went over and put my fingers, because it was shells, I could get my fingers underneath the weight on each side, and the shells made room enough for my fingers to fit in there, But I couldn't hold it with a hand because the plate was too wide. So all I had was 4 fingers on each side. And I was bent over it, and I pulled it up just 6 inches off the ground, that's all. And then I straddled it and waddled over to the scale and put it on the scale. I didn't know what it was. I asked him, he thought it was going to weigh 200 pounds, and I said, well, I don't know. Pick it up, see. But it felt more more than 200 pounds when I picked it up. I only had my 4 fingers on it. But anyway, I took it off and put it up on scale. And this is one of those where you put 100-pound indicators on the little lever thing. Yeah. So if you don't have anything on there, it'll weigh up 100 pounds. So I put a 200-pound thing on there, so it'll weigh up to 300 pounds altogether. So I put that 200-pounder on there, expecting for sure it would be in there. And I got to 300 pounds, and it hadn't budged. I said, wait, that can't be more than 300 pounds. So I put another 100-pound weight on there. Now it's measured 400. It still didn't budge. Man, is it more than 400 pounds? So I put another weight on, a 100-pound weight, and I was up to, it'll measure 500. But, it weighed 410 pounds. And I carried that with 4 fingers on each hand. How did I do that? I don't know how. I only weighed 150. I never picked up anything that heavy before.
Was it completely off the ground when you carried it?
Yeah, I carried it. It was 6-8 inches up in the air. I was just waddling back and forth over the scale with 4 fingers on each side. I don't know how I did that. So, yeah, I still laughed about it after it happened. I couldn't believe that it weighed that much. I told him, well, you're going to have to move it. I'm not moving it anywhere else. So you got somebody to get a forklift to move it. Crazy, man. The things you can do, you don't know you can do until you do them.
Wow.
So anyway, it's crazy. So I guess it's because I was never afraid. Never afraid. I always do it. Push myself, see what I can do. I don't know. So anyway. Kelly's not talking much tonight. She's always talking when she's up on the top. She's not as good on the bottom. Anyway.
I'm listening.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening to the conversation. I'm
okay.
working on getting stuff done, so I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm here for listening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not so many people here tonight. Ashley was here for a while, came back for a minute, and then she left again. So it's just. Yeah,
Kelly's having a break from doing the podcast. She just wants to listen tonight.
Yeah. Well, she does a good job when she's talking.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, no, it's the truth. It's not kind. It's just nice to let you know you're always doing well. Everybody needs to know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you and everybody else in our classes,
Yeah.
Because we can talk to each other, and we can't talk to a lot of other people about this stuff.
Well, Joseph, when you were talking about your experiences on the helicopter and some of the things you've done, and that it's the same but different. Let me put it that way. There's similarities, but every situation is going to be different. It's the same thing with EMS and the ER.
Yeah, I carried a lot of EMS people. Yeah.
So I could relate to you on what you were talking about with just being in that zone, that adrenaline rush that you get from flying helicopters. It's the same thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's what hooked me to become an EMT first. Going down the wrong way of a road with your license sirens going on. There's adrenaline there.
Yeah.
It's quite the feeling. So it's the same thing being a helicopter pilot getting in. So I can relate.
Yeah. Well, I had that experience in a car going the wrong way down the road. I thought I might be. It's like I was in Saudi Arabia, and they drive on the right-hand side of the road, like in the U.S., but I just come back from Australia, where they drive on the other side. So I wasn't, my mind had been focused on driving on the left side when I was in Australia, and I just came back on vacation, and I got in my car, and I was driving down the road, and there was somebody driving on the left side. and I was driving on the right side. I said, "Oh, where am I? Where am I?" I had to ask myself real quick, where am I? Which side of the road should I be on? And I said, I'm on the right side. I'm on the right side. And the other guy finally moved over to the other side, so it was okay. But scary sometimes, stuff you run into. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What was your question?
No, thank you for your responses.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. So we should, eventually way of coordinating all this stuff as we start recognizing which path our minds or bodies or whatever part of us is we're lining up with, and finding to our level of understanding and coordination with each other. Because eventually, if we do well, we'll all be connected to each other in a way that will be multiply our own strengths while having also an even larger strength as a group. So that's really just like growth of human beings together. So looking forward to all this transition. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm trying to transition to. I know I would like to transform my body into a younger one. It would be a little nicer to have. But I'm sure that will come in time. So it's all a matter of being there for it. Not giving up and not finding it too difficult. Just keep on going. And I want to thank you all for your time with me tonight. We'll see what happens as time goes on. And I appreciate all your comments coming in whenever you have them, because it gives me more things to reflect on. I'm still learning about all the things I need to reflect on. So, yeah. Time will tell.
Well, thank you for sharing, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you.
And to me, hearing your helicopter flying experiences, it's a whole other world that I don't know about. So it's fascinating to me.
It's a crazy place.
And it sounds like you've always had an intuition throughout your life, and like the things that happen to you or the premonitions you've had. So yeah, you've been good at hearing that part of you, and now you're even more attuned to it, I guess. And yeah,
that's correct. That's pretty much the way I look at it. It's when you're going through it, you're still learning when you're early on most of the time. But the very beginning, the first thing I said to myself as a instructor pilot when I became an instructor pilot in the Army, one of the most important things to learn there are the emergency procedures, so that you can do them whenever they come up. Engine failures, transmission failures, tail rotor failures, oil problems, and all sorts. You want to know them so well that it's just a normal procedure, and you can do that. You just have to take the time to do it. But when first time I did an auto rotation with a student, this is teaching them how to land the aircraft without the engine running. It's at idle, but it's not running not giving you any power. And you can do it. The helicopter will land without an engine running. You just have to do it right. You only get one chance to do it right. So you have to do everything exactly a certain way. And I made my mind up from the very first one, before I did any with a student, that I was not ever going to make a go-around. A go-around is when you have to roll the throttles back on because you're not in the right position. I said, no, I'm not ever going to roll the throttle back on. I'm going to land this somehow or another with what I got. That choice was what made me aware of how important it was to do it right the first time. Because whenever you do something, doing it right needs the most important focus. And if you think, well, I can roll the throttle back on all the time, but that takes you out of your focus. And it's actually more dangerous to do the roll the throttle back on, because sometimes you wait too long to get it back on, and sometimes the engine doesn't come back on. So it's actually better from the beginning to just say, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to give up at any time. And that helped make me ready for whatever came up. So we have to do that too in this work. We have to say, okay, I'm going to do this best I can right from the beginning, keep myself focused on what I need and do it every time. Might not get it right every time, but it's not like a helicopter. You're not going to die from it. It's okay. You just might have a little embarrassment here and there, but it's okay. So anyway, so it's like, that's part of the game. Anyway, I thank you again, and I hope you all have a pleasant evening, and talk to you again next time. And I'll stop the recording now, and